Hi everyone, I am Alison and I'm here to chat to Michel Nieva about his novel Dengue Boy for the New Scientist Book Club. Hi Michel and welcome.
Hi, Alison. Nice to meet you, and thank you for the invite.
You're welcome. So listen, Dengue Boy was quite a wild ride of a read. For anyone who hasn't got to it yet, can you start by giving us like a brief recap of what the novel is about?
Well, it's a story of a mutant, half human, half humanoid, that borns in a future where, due to climate change, the Antarctic ice sheet melt and part of South America is flooded.
So when you started out writing, did you always know that your mutant would be half, well, like a mosquito, basically a half mosquito mutant? Where did that idea come from? And yeah, it's just such a gripping idea for a protagonist, but it's so wild.
Well, it was during the COVID pandemic that in Argentina at the same time there was a dengue outbreak. That is a tropical and subtropical disease, but due to climate change, spread in other ecosystems, as in Buenos Aires, where I'm from. And I had a
Hmm.
friend that was infected by this virus.
Yeah.
So yes, I wanted to focus on a pandemic of the global south.
Yeah, absolutely. But so you have this idea, cool idea, interesting idea. Is it not quite daunting to start out telling this story from the perspective of a mosquito?
Yes, to make it as a autobiography of a mosquito. That was like my challenge when the character appeared. I was interested also in telling a story that dealt with like climate change and times and perspective that weren't human. And this
Yeah.
was like a challenge how to narrate with a human devices.
Yeah.
So in that moment, I tried to experiment also with narrative devices that weren't necessarily literary.
Yeah. I mean that's a big challenge. I think we definitely learn a lot more about about mosquitoes over the course of the novel. Tell us about the research you did. How did you get into this mindset?
Yes, well, and also because there is nothing as annoying for humans, for human experience as a mosquito. So my challenge was how to empathize with this, sympathize with this creature. And yes, what I like about sci-fi is you get to research of topics you never thought you would be into as mosquitoes in this case.
Hmm.
And I read a lot about mosquitoes anatomy, about eggs. When I
Hmm.
started to write, I realized that the mosquitoes that transfer the disease are not the male mosquitoes. So that became like an important um like issue in the story. I read a lot of papers like entomology manuals. I
Hmm.
love these drawings of old naturalist books,
Hmm.
and that gave me a lot of inspiration for describing the creator. Also, I love very much manga and like horror movies.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting. So yeah, you do lean into the kind of body horror of it all. Some bits are quite like, oh my god, when you're reading them. When Dengue boy or girl first makes a kill, that bit is hard to read. I found the sheepies were very disturbing. Tell me a bit about those bits. Did you feel that you needed to really lean into that for the story, and were they difficult to write?
Yes, I'm not sure about that. This like I like that type of stories, and also I think that's the main explanation. Uh,
Like it, absolutely. One of the things I really loved about Dengue Boy was the futuristic setting. I love a good dystopian future, and I thought that this was such a great one with the stock markets that trade on future pandemics and the cruise ship in the Antarctic Caribbean, which is, well, first of all, such a disturbing idea anyway. But then they're on this cruise ship, they're trying to create the feeling of winter for the passengers. Tell me a bit about coming up with your vision of the future, how you put it together.
I have this idea of telling the future from a South American perspective and experience, because
Hmm.
at least like the most canonic science fiction is narrated through like Europe or the US, and reading from the South is like that perspective never appears. So I wanted to narrate an experience out technology. I was thinking a lot in like billionaires utopias of colonizing other planets, and how that what would happen in South America when the billionaires arrive to space, to Mars. A reflection, I think, in the book, if there is a limit of what capitalism can monetize, even a catastrophe that puts humanity in threat, that appeared during the pandemic. Because at that moment I was in New York, and like there was a complete shutdown, but like the stock market continued operating, and it was amazing for me how even if the humanity would disappear, capitalism will continue operating. So the book has that as a main line. Due to global warming, like winter disappear, but there is a cruise for billionaires that they can experience the winter, and then there are a lot of structures like that in the book.
Yeah, brilliantly dystopian. I think Dengue Boy, girl, void, whatever she is at this point, decides at one point that her new objective might be to decolonize Argentina. So your vision of the future still has the British Empire like spreading its tendrils around the globe, which is depressing, but
Yes, I was criticized for that because it's okay. It's really far in the future, but like the empires are exactly the same as in the past. But
yeah.
yes, that had two reasons. One is that when I was writing the text, like the Islas Malvinas slash Falklands, that are like a colonized territory of the United Kingdom that originally was from Argentina, disappeared from the map. Like in Argentine literature, there's a tradition about the imagination of these islands. So I thought, well, the islands disappear. What happens with this colonizing situation? So I transferred it
Yeah.
to Antarctica. This
Yeah.
conflict between Argentina and UK.
Yeah, interesting. So you said earlier that it was a short story to begin with. Talk me through a bit about that, about the writing of it. So was it originally not going to be a novel then, this book?
And I wrote the story, but I felt like the map contained a lot of other stories that were potentially there inside
Yeah,
the map. So
yeah,
in a sort of way, like I continue narrating what was inside the map, and that's why how the short story unfolded into a longer text.
So is the short story still within the novel, or did you kind of rewrite it as you came to finish the novel?
I think it's pretty much the same.
Yeah,
It had
interesting.
small tweaks, but not big changes.
Tell us a bit about your writing regime. How long does it take you to work over a scene? Where do you fit writing into your day? That kind of thing.
Well, I wrote this during the pandemic,
Hmm.
so I thought, okay, I calculated the commuting time that I was saving, and I thought, okay, this will be the time destined to write. But for me, I think the hardest part is like the world building, and maybe the research that I have to make about mosquitoes, Antarctica, and then when the characters appear. This was because this is my third fiction book, but it's the first one that has like in a sort of way linear plot and the same characters, and it was strange for me because like the characters started to acquire density, and there was a moment when the I just had to put the characters, and then the characters by themselves started to act. I like not knowing what will happen afterwards. Like I know the characters and the world building, but and I don't have very clear like the complete plot. I like to just start to write and see what happens.
Yeah. Oh, that's interesting because it feels like it doesn't feel like that at all when you get to the end. It feels very planned out. And we're going to have a bit of a spoiler alert now for anyone who might not have finished the book who's watching, because I wanted to ask you about things that happen further on in the book. Can you talk to us about the mighty Anak and what you were trying to do with that bit of the story? What's going on there?
Yes, like I read a lot of bibliography about Antarctica and also literature about Antarctica. And I read
Yeah.
really lousy novels about UFOs in Antarctica, paranormal issues, but I found really compelling the Lovecraft story, The Mountain of Madness, in the mountains.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, the Mantis of Madness, yeah.
And I like how in the story appears a sort of strange geologic agency that makes people crazy. And I like this idea that was a complete anarchy that couldn't
Yeah.
be, yes,
Yeah.
manipulated.
That's why it doesn't seem like you haven't planned it out that much, because it kind of circles it all round back again to Dengue Boy or girl.
Yes, and then I found there is like a structure that appears while I was writing. That
Yeah.
I realized there were repetitions, and I
Mm-hmm.
found like all the mutations of the character have 12 letters, and I
Mm-hmm.
like that game that just to continue it, and that's how a sort of mathematical structure appeared to the novel.
Yeah, interesting. Well, I'm gonna just hold up the book so if everyone can see its gorgeous cover. So what is next, Michel? Now you've told this wild and crazy story. Where next? What are you up to? What are you writing at the moment?
Well, last year I finished a small essay that was a sort of continuation of Dengue Boy, that it's like the influence of science fiction in Silicon Valley and
Mm-hmm.
these ideas of how capitalism can continue when the Earth will finish. That
Mm-hmm.
is called Capitalist Science Fiction. It's a non-fiction book that will appear next
Okay.
year in English. Now I started to write a new story that is still in the beginning, but it continues the life of our characters of Tengi Boy.
Oh, great. Excellent. So there's more to come. Brilliant. Excellent. Well, Michel, thank you so much for coming on and chatting. It's really great to find out a bit more about what lies behind the novel. And yeah, and thanks for a great read.
No, thank you for the invite. It was a pleasure to talk, and hope to see you soon.